Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Juggle is Real. It's me, Andryanna, and I'm so happy that you're here. I thought I would share a replay of an older episode that has so many incredible golden nuggets as we're in these summer months where maybe you're planning some travel, but maybe some of these financial hardships that we've all been facing. Like, let's be serious with inflation and the rising costs of goods and everything around us. Maybe you're feeling that crunch and maybe you're a little bit worried about how this summer is going to play out. Maybe you're wondering how you're going to keep the kids occupied and having fun, or maybe you're feeling a little stressed out because you know that maybe the budget's not quite there and you don't have the means to actually do all those things that you want to do. But fear not, because this episode shares a lot of really great information. Now, I was kind of taken aback because a new FP Canada financial stress survey reveals that 40% of us say that money is their top stressor. And the guest that I interviewed for this podcast episode knows all about that. She is a best-selling author. She is a keynote speaker. She is a media personality. She is a financial expert, and she is the founder of Money Wise Workplaces. She is also a dear friend and a mastermind partner of mine. Her name is Kelley Keehn, and really, this episode, this chat that we had goes into so many of these beautiful, beautiful things that we're all stressing about. But we're talking about the mindset of money. And in this episode, Kelley is also sharing a lot of great tips and tricks that we can use when we're sitting down to look at budgets. Maybe when we're talking to our partner and we're trying to make a plan for how we can make ends meet or how we can make the money that we have go a little bit further. I wanted to share this now because I know we're all feeling the extra crunch of the economy and the things that are going on around us. And while I like to use the equation that to feel better balance, you're going to want to subtract additional stressors and add in all of those additional modes of joy and nurture. Sometimes it's easier said than done. So please enjoy this episode with finance expert Kelley Keehn as we go through how we can reduce our stress when it comes to money and finances. Take a listen. My name is Andryanna, and this is the Juggle is Real podcast. After experiencing burnout 5 years ago, I knew that I needed to make a change, and I had to do some deep digging to find out what the root cause of my problem was. And it turns out that it wasn't so much tied to my work or being too busy, but it was busily working to live up to the pressure I put on myself to be the perfect mom, wife, colleague, friend, and more. After committing to leading a more intentional and balanced life, I learned how to let go of all the stuff that wasn't serving me so I could prioritize my well-being and show up as the best version of myself for those around me. Now, it's an ongoing journey, and I have made it my mission to help busy people find better balance through this show. I hope that you feel seen, that you lighten your load, and that you learn as I share insights, actionable tools, and mindset philosophies to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with less stress and more ease, joy, and fun. Plus, I have some incredible guest experts who are well-known faces in the wellness, education, entrepreneurship, and motherhood space that are going to help you simplify, streamline, and supercharge your journey of better balance and self-love. Now, are you with me? Let's get started. We have best-selling author and personal finance educator Kelley Keehn here to share her insights with us. For decades, Kelley has been a trusted voice for sound personal finance advice. Kelley started her career in helping some of Canada's wealthiest. She then took her expertise to a more broad audience, helping people of all incomes as a personal finance educator. Kelley is a firm believer that everyone has money problems, which means anyone can fix them. Kelley is a sought-after guest speaker, media personality, and best-selling author of 11 books. Her newest book is called Rich Girl, Broke Girl. It's been published by Simon & Schuster and is now available in stores nationwide. You have probably seen her on your television as she's a regular expert on CTV's The Marilyn Dennis Show, Global National's The Morning Show, and BNN Bloomberg. She's hosted W Network's Burn Your Mortgage, has conducted thousands of interviews, and regularly speaks for some of Canada's largest corporations. Kelley, welcome to the Juggle is Real podcast.
So great to be with you, Andryanna.
Thank you. Why don't you start by telling us about why you're so passionate about personal finance, especially for women?
Well, it's been a long career and it started out most accidentally, but definitely my roots in finance, even though they were accidental, started with my mom. And I was raised by an incredible mother, single mom of three children, fleeing really a very abusive relationship with my dad. And, watching my mom struggle to just provide for us. Like, she didn't pursue her education because she supported my father's businesses and things of that sort. And so when she was all on her own with no support, the only thing that she was able to do was to waitress and be a dishwasher. And she was very, very proud of her roles. And, we never went hungry, but I know there was many times that she did. And, not to go on too much more about it, but so I had this, very scarcity, I think, very scarce financial upbringing, but I also had very, very wealthy uncles on my mom's side. So, when I would hang around with my uncles, of course, they were men too, but they were so confident and they talked about investing in their real estate holdings and it was very different. I could see at a very young age how different, people with money and people without money, how it affected them, not just in the day to day of do you have a bigger or a smaller house? Do you have a bigger or a smaller car? But how do you feel about yourself? How do you hold yourself? And again, had zero interest in getting into the financial industry. It was all by accident, but I'm really happy I am because Andryanna, we belong to a few groups together and we love the Steve Jobs quote that you can only connect the dots looking backwards. So it is my great, great honor that my most recent book is specifically for women and money, just like my first two books were, because it is and has been a real passion of mine for several decades now.
That's so interesting how you can sort of cite your upbringing and really relate it back. And I think so many of us are influenced by how we were raised and how, our parents, how our families, what our upbringing was in terms of talking about money and talking about finances. And I mean, this podcast episode is part of a series on hidden stressors, but sometimes really money and finances is not a hidden stressor. It's very out in the open, perhaps, as you mentioned with your mom and striving to, make ends meet with three young children. But why, in your opinion, do you think the topic of money and finances, just in general, is a stressor for so many?
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. So, first of all, generally speaking, talking about money isn't a stressor. If you've got money, you want to know if you should go into an RSP or a TFSA or some tax strategies. That can be a little bit embarrassing. Some people maybe feel like, oh, I should know this, and they don't. But most people don't have a problem speaking about money, okay? What most people have a problem speaking, and this nuance is something I had to work on as well, with my poor kid syndrome. What most people don't want to talk about is a lack of money. And it's important to get clear that money's fun to talk about. Where do you go and how do you, maybe get a better return on your investment and slash your fees with your portfolio manager. That's fun. There's channels dedicated to that. What's not fun is, man, you can't pay your bills at the end of the month. And you want to start a new business and your credit score is in the, it's tanking and you don't know how to get it up and you don't know who to share with that and nobody will lend to you. Or maybe you've actually had to take a payday loan to get through the pandemic and your interest rate is 600% and you don't know how you're possibly going to make it. This is where I want to really help people. And the reason why too is because when I was in the financial industry, and I had a very cushy job with very wealthy clients, as you mentioned in your intro, I was trying to live up to those clients in my early 20s. And although I was doing well, I was not making what they were. And I got myself into a lot of financial trouble. I didn't have to file bankruptcy, but man, I got into a lot of financial trouble trying to live up to not the Joneses, even wealthier than the Joneses, my clients. So I speak from from someone who was trying to look rich early in their career, made a lot of mistakes, atoned in their 30s, and now in my, mid 40s, I really get what money conversations are about. So it's a long-winded answer, but there's basically a lot of emotions going on and a lot of super charged issues when it comes to talking about money or a lack of money.
Well, I think it's kind of like a been there, done that scenario, seeing both sides of the coin in your case and being able to expand on it and grow from there and share what you've learned. Because for people who are in the former position of being in the lack of not being able to pay bills or just being really scared about what their situation is, striving for keeping up with the Joneses or looking at the wealth mindset or striving for more than just being able to pay off your credit card bill. Those are two very stark contrasts. And so how do we move through that? There's a really common saying that knowledge is power, and another that money is power.
Yes.
So when we are, maybe combining the two, are there certain misnomers or misconceptions that you often see when you are, speaking to women about their financial power? Are there certain things that, aren't as clear as they should be that you would like to sort of share with everyone?
Sure. I mean, number one is first paying attention to it. I guess that's not even number one. My old mission was for Canadians to feel good about money. And the reason why it was a very purposeful mission, because if you took away the money, I wanted Canadians to feel good. And if you took away the good, I want Canadians to feel. And if you have podcast listeners all over the world, whatever, you're a citizen of the globe, I want people to feel. Now, why is that important? Because if you look on, there's the Sedona method and there's a few other kind of scales of emotions that I'm a fan of. But, at the very bottom usually is apathy, and usually at the top is like love and peace and things of that sort. And in the middle, there's anger and frustration and a bunch of, jealousy and revenge and all that type of stuff. Well, if we have a financial resiliency scale, it's the same thing. If you want to be financially resilient, that's kind of like at the top. At the bottom is apathy, where it's just like, oh God, you don't even know how bad it is. Maybe you're in a relationship where you want to get out and you don't even know what you as a couple own and how that can all work, or you got yourself into debt, or something happened that you were forced to get into debt and it's bad, or you don't even know how bad it is. Maybe you owe money to Revenue Canada, you're self-employed, you didn't pay your taxes. Apathy is really easy to stay in because, you just have a glass of wine, watch some Netflix, hope it's going to get fixed. Maybe it's not that bad. You're making your minimum payments. It's not really that bad, but you're certainly far from financial resiliency. For you to move up, and this analogy can be used with your weight, with your health, with all types of different stuff, but for you to move up that scale, you're not going to go from apathy to resiliency. You are going to have a little bit of pain on the way. You are going to have frustration and anger at the situation. There's going to be a lot of those till you get up there. And the reason I bring it up is because when we're in that, we're like, I should have just stayed in apathy. I should have just, like, why did I bother? Our coach, we have the same coach, we'll call it the messy middle. Like, why did I renovate? And, I live in a 100-year-old home, and I renovated during the pandemic with my husband. And oh my goodness, fixing the pipes, fixing the electricity, fixing the water, all that type of stuff costs more than our kitchen renovation. We're like, why did we even touch the thing?
Some things are better left, behind the
Right?
walls, I guess. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. But it's worth it. It's worth it for you to get to financial resiliency. It's worth it for you to be mad and be frustrated and not know how it's going to all work out, but that you deserve it. And it's, you're worth it. And your family is worth you changing these beliefs about money, you changing these attitudes and behaviors surrounding money to get through it. But I just want to really warn your listeners that it's not necessarily easy, and it's certainly not, just like one linear step. There's a lot of steps to it, and you've got to be really, really gentle, as you're working through it.
Yeah. And in order to get to your new financial kitchen renovated and, with all the bells and whistles, then yeah, you have to go through the process and you have to take down the walls and see what kind of cobwebs are in there. And that's why I love your latest book. I feel that one of the main takeaways in Rich Girl, Broke Girl is really communication. So in your opinion, talking about money with your partner is one of the main takeaways. Do you think effective communication or lack thereof perhaps is one of the reasons why finances is perhaps a hidden stressor, something that, is weighing on us, but we're not even really able to identify it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really nailed it. It's also communication with yourself. Like one of the hidden stressors of certainly when it comes to finances, like and messy finances, is it all kind of being rolling around. Like it's all rolling around. People are like, where should I start? Start with clear communication with yourself of where you sit. So you want to, sit down and do a net worth statement. Like what is everything that you owe? When are the due dates? How much do you owe? Put it in your digital calendar. Like, what are the interest rates? Like, really dig into it, even more so than what you own. And then also do the other side, what you own. Like, do you have a pension at work? What are you invested in? Do you have RSPs or TFSAs? Like, what are they actually investing in? What are the fees that you're paying? Now, you might not have those answers, but that's you need to go and get all of that information. Like, what was your rate of return? So many people are not going to have the retirement and the lifestyle that they want to have because they don't clearly communicate with themselves. Forget about even talking to your partner yet, or a financial planner or somebody in the financial industry. You first need to know where you sit, right? I guess, like with your physical health, you would need to get on a scale and weigh in, right? It's not always pleasant, but you need to do it. And then you need to also count your calories. You need to count your financial calories. And that can also be a difficult discussion with your spouse, let's say, because you may have a goal of paying down the mortgage or taking a vacation this year or investing more. And then, you've agreed to this budget, let's say, and you've had the communication, but now your spouse is doing Uber Eats because they didn't pack their lunch. And and you're dutifully doing that and making your coffee at home, and they're coming home with Starbucks and all this type of stuff. That can really quickly create some financial tension and stress and be hidden stressors that are, these big arguments that really come back down to maybe it was a hurt that really was a financial hurt and a miscommunication. So yeah, it really can fester in a relationship. But again, it starts with you being clear about your finances, your goals, your priorities, understanding, as you were saying, like, what we're all bringing financial, emotional baggage to a relationship, to a friendship, to even our coworkers. We don't realize it. So really getting clear too what your financial baggage is and how that maybe affects how you interact with your spouse and your friends and your colleagues, right? I think that's really important as well.
I think so too. And I mean, a lot of what you're saying is ringing true. I think I have to have that sit down with myself and really make things clear because sometimes often the stressor comes from just being in a state of confusion, and you're paying the bills, but it's kind of just flying from the seat of your pants, and you're not really sure of how everything looks on paper. So I think that's a really great starting point, is looking at everything and just being really honest with yourself, and then of course with any type of partner that that you're living with or sharing finances with. So when you're doing that, because I am a huge, and I know you are as well, when it comes to our mindset, when we want to say, look and be from that position of taking our net worth and looking at all of our debt and what we own, balancing our books and creating this plan, sometimes there can be a fear of focusing on a lack. And when you're focusing on the lack, you just create more lack and more scarcity. So when you're looking at saving money or cutting costs, not getting the Starbucks, but making your own pureed coffee in the morning, are we then playing into the scarcity mindset? So can you give your thoughts on perhaps balancing that, maybe being a bit frugal, but not being in that perpetual state of lack that's sort of a downward spiral?
Oh, I'm so happy you asked that. I'm probably one of the few financial educators that I know of that I have zero space in my life for budgeting, for even being frugal. I would say my husband's frugal. I'm not. Like, to me, there's being smart. And if you go through my book, I talk about a 30-day anti-budget. Like, I never want to feel lack or sacrifice, but it's about choice and awareness. Okay, so putting the happy face sticker on your empty tank of gas is not helpful. Like, you've got to know what your situation is, because you have to take charge of it. So I would say, if you're in debt, if you're struggling, ignoring it and putting the happy face sticker on it is going to get you in a lot of trouble, right? If you owe money and you can't pay it, you have the opportunity to call up your creditors and negotiate. You have the opportunity to talk to a nonprofit credit counselor or a bankruptcy insolvency trustee. I have seen so many people who are like, I'm just going to be positive, there are no weeds, and they get their house taken away. So if you are dealing with that situation, this is going to be the most important thing, is diffusing, like making it neutral and diffusing the guilt and shame. Uh, Even if you totally maxed out your credit cards, went on vacations, bought shoes, fine. You enjoyed it. You're going to fix it. You're going to figure it out. This has nothing to do with shame or guilt. It's like, it is what it is, and you're going to figure it out. But by not knowing where these things are, maybe you're in a 29% interest rate, a credit card, you could call up your bank and get into one for 12%, right? So part of it is like diffusing any kind of guilt or shame you would have surrounding the debt. Be very neutral about it. Like, you have debt. You want to get out of this debt. Then you want to, once you've got that, you don't need to focus on it. Now you really want to be focusing on what are all the ways that you can bring in income. But that's not also what you want to be focusing on, is all of the things that money is going to bring you pleasure for. So I was mentioning that, not making the coffee at home and having the Starbucks. I'm all about the pleasure. And I remember working with a coach, oh gosh, I think this was when I was in debt, like in my 20s and stuff. And he was like, what are all of the things that bring you pleasure? And I had no list. It was like, I got to pay my debt. I owe this money. And he's like, how are you ever going to attract more money into your life if you don't even have anything that brings you joy that you're going to spend it on? And when I was telling you that I had these really wealthy uncles and a mom that was, just scrimping by, like, she would always make sure we had fresh carnations, very inexpensive, and they last forever. But she always had carnations on the table. Every time she got her paycheck, she bought a couple carnations. I had my one uncle who was worth, we don't even know how many tens of millions of dollars. And he literally, if you saw him on the street, you would give him money, because you would be like, this guy is the poorest looking person in the world. And that is not wealth, right? So it's that balance of, yeah, you don't want to evoke the scarcity mindset. You don't want to be like, oh my God, I got this debt. Um, but and then being playful about it too, right? Like I was listening to another podcast the other day, and they were talking. She had this unexpected debt, and she was like, I'm going to make it like a scavenger hunt and just see like what are all the ways that I could find that I could bring in money to pay off this debt, and you could like involve the family too, right? It's like, okay, we can really cut and we can really scrimp and save, or like, what if as a family we got really creative? What could we do? And sure, some of it might be cutting back. Okay, we're going to make coffee at home or what have you. But you'd be surprised how creative your family can be in coming up with ways to slash that debt and bring in more income.
That's so great, because I think oftentimes some of the hesitation is like, oh, I know that we have to start paying off more debt, but I don't really want to make those changes that, take away from my enjoyment or my self-care or just, pleasure in general. So I think taking some of the emotion away from the debt or whatever the financial burden might be, and, really being able to look at it for what it is, which is a neutral perspective where, you're going to come up with a solution, and, the world doesn't have to end from the sense of enjoyment while you're doing that. So thank you for saying that. But because I think a lot of us are almost afraid to speak to, financial educators or advisors, or coaches, because we're like, oh no, they're going to tell me that I have to cut everything out and there's no room for fun anymore. And so, I appreciate that there can be more than that. And I know with taking action, you've provided some really, really great starting off points, but what advice would you give to the busy working parent who's listening, who wants to make good financial decisions, but isn't sure where to start? So yes, so taking that, taking stock of where your position is financially, but anywhere else, are there sort of go-tos when it comes to starting and looking to building from apathy to, resiliency in terms of finances?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think, and I know we've heard this a million times, it's cliche and I fly a lot, but it's really putting that oxygen mask on yourself. Because if you aren't clear about why you're getting up in the morning, why money is essential to you, why you want more of it into your world, it stops there, right? Like the buck stops there. It's like you can have all the intention you want for your kids, right? And I know every mom does and every parent does. You can want the best for them. But if you are sacrificing, like you said, your self-care, you can want to be debt-free and fast track all of it and wake up miserable every single day. I don't want people to do that. So of all the things I suggested of, being willing to move through the emotional scale, sitting down and really figuring out where your finances are, the most important thing I would love your listeners to do is to carve out 5 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is over the next week. Get a really beautiful journal. Or if you love punching stuff into your phone, that's fine. I like writing in a journal. And either go or be or do or pretend that you're doing something that you would be doing when the money comes in. And I do that all the time. Maybe you can't afford anything, but you could go to a great hotel in your area, because now we're opening up, right? You could go to a great hotel in your city and just order a beautiful cup of coffee there and just write down what it would be like to stay in those rooms and what it would be like to have room service. If I didn't allow myself to at least dream about the possibility of these things, and it's not in the having of the things. I want to be really clear. I'm as happy with my $20 Zara jeans as I am with my, very expensive jeans that have a Louis Vuitton belt. It's about, allowing yourself the opportunity to have experiences and things and the worthiness of it. Because if you don't, what's the point of trying to get the money? And even if you do have the money, you're not going to spend it on yourself. So why did you work so hard to get up being miserable have a bunch of money you weren't going to spend. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. And I love the fact that you're saying to enjoy what you can now, but always wanting to strive for more, and doing it in a way that's going to bring joy, but also to be educated and to be aware of what's going on around you. So some really, really great takeaways, such great advice. I know through your book, there are so many nuggets, and your passion is so amazing to see. And it really, this passion just really excites me. And
Thank you, Andryanna. Yeah, I really want women to lean in. We're so much wealthier than we realize. And there literally is millions of dollars of free money being left on the table every single year in the form of, not negotiating your salary or your mortgage or so many different things, employer benefits that women aren't taking advantage of, tax credits, bursaries, loans, grants for their kids, literally free money that isn't claimed at the Bank of Canada. Like, there are so many avenues and places that women can be claiming their money. Like, my mission for so long has been to feel good about it. I'm like, okay, ladies, now we've got to claim it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share your vast awareness and amazing mindset when it comes to personal finance and really creating wealth from such a holistic perspective for women. It's been so great chatting with you. Your book, Rich Girl, Broke Girl, you can get that pretty much anywhere, I know, on your website or anywhere books are sold. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Andryanna. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Amazing questions. And I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing for women. I love the permission that you're giving them to stand up for themselves, take care of themselves, and prosper. So it's been my honor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, so much goodness in that episode. I love the advice that Kelley shares. Now, if you want more, you're going to want to check her out on LinkedIn because she is featured in the media all the time and she has the best tips when it comes to making our money count. You can also check out some of her best-selling books as well as her money-wise workplaces, especially if you are in charge of financial wellness for your organization. I'm going to include a bunch of links in the notes for this podcast episode so you can learn more about all that she has to offer. And if you like this episode, can you do me a favor and rate it? Write me a quick review, share it with a friend, someone who can reduce some of that stress they have about money and finances in their life. And as always, I can't wait to see you here for another episode of the Juggle is Real podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take good care.